Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made is a Myth show, Make a Difference Together, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their journey of them building their business. And because we know that success in business is not something that we can do on our own, we're taking time out to acknowledge and recognize the folks who have helped us to build our business and helped us to be successful. Today, I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. My guest has, check this out, has lived in how many countries? Three countries,
Three.
and is fluent in English, Chinese, and learning Spanish. He loves to travel and has been to 43 countries. 43 countries. Wow, that's amazing. We're going to get a little bit of insight into that here in a minute. And he's most proud of spending quality time with his girls, who has traveled to many of those countries with him. It's my pleasure to welcome Jemmie to the show today. Hello, Jemmie.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and live, about your family and some of your hobbies.
Yeah, I was born Jemmie Wang. I was born in Taiwan. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and I've been in the U.S. since 1989. 30 some years. And uh, I guess my backstory is I got my bachelor's in electrical engineering and M.B.A. from University of Michigan, and I've always been kind of an entrepreneur at heart. Very um, creative in how I think about things and business and solutions. And so I started a computer company in the 90s when I was going to school full time and ran that for 9 years. And I went to Dell and a series of private equity owned companies that I helped sell as part of the executive team.
Mhm.
And since 2014, I've been working with my partner on in consulting and also investments. So we consult with everyone from Fortune 100 companies to regional, uh, statewide family-owned businesses, and we do really focus on process improvement, increasing profitability, and helping a lot of these companies sell when they want to. And often we invest alongside with the owners, so we have some skin in the game. And frankly, it's not all altruistic. So we get some upside when we make these significant improvements and are able to cash in with the owners when they sell. So, and in terms of, I guess, my hobbies, a lot of different hobbies, including camping, backpacking, fishing, a lot of outdoors things, but also it's fundamentally a lot of travel. So we've been to 43 countries over the past few years, and just for me, I guess it's one of the things you do when ADHD transitions into adult ADHD. Uh, I want to. I like being exposed to environments that are new to me and are challenging. Right. That's what really iron sharpens iron. So that's what really makes me alive. Like I'm here. I don't know the local language. I don't know anyone, and my family's here. What do we do? Right. So that's what really wakes me up.
Yeah, fantastic. And of those 43 countries, how many did you say you took your daughters to?
And they've been to like 34 of them with
Wow.
me, with me and my wife, and they they're well traveled now, and I think it builds a sense of confidence among these kids, right? Like we're going somewhere, we don't know anyone, we don't know the local language, we have a kind of high level itinerary of what we're going to do, but what I the way I frame it is it's kind of like travel jazz, right? So it's not like a traditional piece of music where here's a piece of music and you play every note the way it's written, but it's like jazz, right? There's going to be a lot of improvisation. There's going to be a lot of change of plans. There may be a great attraction that was not on the list
Uh-huh.
that we just happen to run into, and there may be something that we thought we'd be out for 4 hours, but hey, it's done after an hour and a half. That's great. And so it's like travel jazz, and I think there's a tremendous value in exposing exposing kids to that, and it literally broadens their horizons in the world but also shows them how to deal with uncertainty, how to
Yeah.
deal with kind of the known unknowns and even the unknown unknowns that come up.
So, as a fellow Canadian, uh, do you recognize tell people you're from Canada or from the U.S. when you're traveling abroad?
I I tell them I'm Canadian.
Me too.
My Yeah, my family can say whatever they want, but I tell them I'm Canadian, which is true. And but with regards to Americans, these the every place I've been to, even places that you think, hmm, they should not love Americans, like Vietnam, right? Vietnam,
Yeah.
more bombs were dropped there than in all World War II, right? Most about Americans, and you think like they should not love Americans, but when I go there, and every single one of them, they're like, we love Americans. So I would encourage my American friends to travel to these places, that some of these places that where you might even wonder, like, hey, what do they think about Americans? Every single place I've been to, even places that I'm like, hey, why do you love the Americans? And unanimously they love Americans.
Yeah.
So I encourage my Americans friends to travel.
Jemmie, what's a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
You know, I don't know if there's one funny story, but they make fun of me a lot on about um I- I'm a my wife says it's a gift and a curse. When I go somewhere, when I walk into a room, when I see a certain situation, I cannot help but imagine how this process can work better.
Mm,
Right. So like my brain cannot but help say, oh, this restaurant does things this way. Here's a sequence. There's a better way to do this. This is a better way. Or even traveling, like what is the optimal? So a lot of people when they travel, they're like, hey, we'll start the day and we'll see what happens, or we're gonna hit these three sites. So
yeah.
um, I have points of interest on a map, and so when we're by somewhere, I can see what's the optimal sequence of sites, right?
Mm.
And so my family makes fun of me a lot about that. But you know what? Uh, they they get the benefits of that
Right?
without the obsession, and they ultimately enjoy it. They're just like, let him struggle over it,
Yep.
and we'll get the fruits of that struggle.
There you go. Jemmie, you mentioned that you've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Tell us about how the business came about and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
So I started my first company when I was probably 19, right? And I ran that computer company for 9 years. And what got me confident about that was, and I'm trying to frame this in a very positive way, was I saw some of the other people doing it, and I'm like, wait, and this may be overconfidence, but I'm like, wait, I can do this a lot better, right? There are better ways to do this, right? They're making this mistake, that mistake. It's inefficient in this way, and so there are better ways to do this, and that's what got me. That's really what gave me the confidence, I guess. And when you're 19, we were both 19 once, Tim,
Yep,
and when you're 19, you're overconfident about a lot of things, right?
sure.
So maybe I was overconfident, but it, if so, I guess the positive uh, result from that was it allowed me to try it, allowed me to jump in,
Yeah.
right? Which, uh, I mean, which for me is it's a very positive kind of attribute in that you're just willing to do it, right? As opposed to kind of waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect situation, the perfect business, the perfect product,
Yeah.
whatever it is, because perfect almost never comes.
Right. Yes. I love that. Tell us a little bit more about the company. So what's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
So currently, the company is called AcretivPartners LLP, and my partner was a partner at Booz. So we have clients literally ranging from Fortune 100 to Fortune 100 companies to statewide, regional companies with revenue of in tens of millions, right? Tens of millions to tens or hundreds of billions. And we do everything from strategic planning to specific improvements on whether it's a division or the product or whatever, just bringing kind of an outsider's view with a emphasis on quantitative decision making, right? Instead of making decisions by gut,
Yeah.
making decisions by facts and numbers in a very unemotional, um, unemotional way. And it's a lot of it is what I call, money ball for business, right? So instead of managing by gut, like, hey, this guy looks like he's a great baseball player, or he looks like he fits the stereotype of a great baseball player. But let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the
Mm,
numbers, and then let's also look at, are we looking at the right numbers, right?
right.
That was one of the keys of Moneyball. Is like, what are the right metrics? So
Hmm.
what are the right metrics for this business, this division? uh, what actually what metrics are actually tied to profitability and are under the control of the employees in that business, right?
Mm,
Because there are some metrics that are tied to profitability but are not under the control of the managers, the executives, managers, employees in that business.
right.
So what drive profitability and are under the control of the employees in this business,
Got it.
and optimize those, increase profitability, increase top line. And if the business, when the timing is right, if the business owner wants to help them sell the business, present it in a as favorable of a way as possible,
Hmm.
and try to get maximum value. And because we're one of the very, very few consulting companies that will often take a significant, or in a couple of cases, all of compensation in the form of stock options or stock.
Okay.
So our interests are completely aligned with that of our clients,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So, and
Fantastic.
then when they cash out for hopefully a market or premium pricing, we get the benefits of that as well.
Hmm. Fantastic. Jimmy, share a story with us of where someone pushed you or inspired you that that you could do it maybe even when you didn't think that you could, and the impact that that person had.
Yeah, I think when I left the last, I guess, full time job in 2014, uh, I was like, hey, what do I do now?
Hmm.
And the previous CEO I had worked with, I talked with him and I said, I'm thinking about doing this. And he said, yeah, with your business contacts and your skills that we saw in the business that benefited the business, you can definitely, you could definitely, you, know, you could definitely do this. And that was encouraging. But I'll say, like, um, that was encouraging, and a lot of the other colleagues and friends I talked with, they're all very encouraging. Uh, but for me, all those things helped, but they help validate kind of I guess, the confidence I had that, yeah, this is very doable, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's something I did before, even in my 20s when I knew nothing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
come on, when we're in our 20s, what do we really know, right? Even in my 20s, when I knew nothing, I ran a business. So I'm like, yeah, I know so much more now, and I've grown so much. I've gotten my butt kicked the right way so many more times since then, that this is very doable. But the
Right.
encouragement from the previous bosses and colleagues and friends helped definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. What's been your biggest learning as a business owner?
So I think my biggest learning, and I think someone once said, I'll paraphrase this, like the the smart man learns from his mistakes
Mm,
and successes, but the really smart man learns from the failures and successes of others. So
mhm.
what I try to do, and what I've seen from a lot of the small medium sized businesses that I've worked with, is a lot of these really successful people in business did not get there because they were rocket scientists,
Mm,
right? And I want to be very careful. They're not stupid people, but they were not rocket scientists, right? They didn't go to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, whatever. But what they did is they just did it.
mm,
Okay. And they just did it. They had an idea, and instead of um, being paralyzed by analysis or waiting for the perfect idea or waiting for the perfect time, the perfect situation, the perfect customer, right? The perfect season, whatever. They just said that I'm just going to go and do it and see what happens. And then I'm going to be open minded about how I'm going to make this succeed. I'm going to pivot frequently when necessary, but I'm just going to do it.
Hmm.
So I've worked with a lot of people who were not rocket scientists, but they just did it,
Yeah.
right? They just did it, and uh, they did it and improved along the way. Uh, I'm a Michigan guy, so one of the things Jim Harbaugh says that is very that kind of touches me to the core is he said, secret to our success is we're going to be better today than we were yesterday, and
Mm,
we'll be better tomorrow than we were today.
yeah.
Okay. So it's not how good you are right now or how good your business is right now or how good your idea is right now, but are you going to improve it continuously? Right. So are you going to do it and are you going to continuously improve? If you
Yeah.
do those two things, that a lot of these clients we work with who we help cash out with 8, 9, 10 figures. Okay. That's what they're about. And that's kind of my lesson is that um, success in business is a lot of it is just doing it, right? And doing it obsessively. Like one thing I tell my girls is obsession beats talent, 100% of the time, right?
Yes.
Obsession beats talent.
Yes. One of the things my coach taught me in the first couple years is be persistent and consistent. And so I
Yeah,
think that ties into what you're saying is
right.
if you keep
That's
doing the things and doing the right things, planting the seeds, eventually they're going to sprout and
that's
things will take off. And yeah,
right.
you have to
That's
pivot,
a
you have
that's
to
a
learn, you have to adapt because
right.
nothing the only thing we know about our plans for sure is that they're not going to work out exactly the way we map them out, but it's a guideline, right? It's a post,
You,
it's a
you need
an
you need
area
to
of
have a
work.
plan.
Yes.
The great philosopher Mike Tyson, a great quote. He has two great quotes. I tell my girls all the time. One is everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Okay. And but you need to have a plan, but you need to be flexible with it,
Yeah,
right? Because we're all going to get punched in the mouth.
yeah.
Okay, so you can't say I'm gonna. This is a plan. I'm gonna keep going at this guy full, straight on. You're gonna get punched in the mouth again and again. But you need to have a plan, right? So absolutely, you need to have a plan, but you need to be able to adapt.
Right. Yeah. And I like what you said too about that continuous learning. So some folks can get worried about quote unquote failing. And so when we change that word from failing to learning, right, or failing forward, that's a much better perspective of yeah, there's going to be lots of stuff that we don't get right the first time, and that we have to adapt and course correct and modify and tweak. But if we keep going at it and keep working towards our plan or our vision, right, we'll and learn along the way and make adjustments, then lots of people give up way too early. So those of us who keep at it are the ones that are going to see those successes.
I I just went to lunch with a friend of mine earlier this week, and he does sales in a insurance industry,
Mm,
uh, wholesaler. And he says that he tracks this. He says for every 6.4 RFPs I respond to, I win one.
yeah.
Okay. So for him, he looks at it as yes, I can improve upon that number, but two, I just need to increase that 6.4, right?
Yeah.
If I do, if it's one in 6.4, if I do 64, I'm going to win 10. If I do 128,
Yes.
I'm going to win 20. And
Yes.
it's just math, right? So
Yes.
he just keeps at it. He said, and it's fascinating the way he puts it to me is he says, look, my job is easy, right? Technically, it's very easy. I work a lot. I work very hard. But technically, it's very, very easy.
Yeah.
And most people can't do it because they get discouraged because they get
Mhm.
discouraged by the 5.4 that they lose, right?
Yes.
But which I mean, if you put hours or days preparing a proposal, I can see that. But he just says, I just focus on the one of the
Yeah.
6.4, and I just have to increase that 6.4.
Yes. Yeah. And the great thing about that is when you know your numbers, Now, when you get a no, you're one more,
Right.
you're one step closer to the next yes.
That's one of the 5.4 no's, right?
Right? Yep.
Until you need 4.4 more no's until you get to your yes,
Yep.
right? And that's all it is.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's persistency, consistency, it's obsession.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Jimmy, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges during the years, and maybe a fellow business owner who came alongside you and helped you get through that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna do a slightly different take on that. In that, I've had a lot of help over the years from fellow business owners, but also um, customers, clients,
Mm.
and some of the key decision makers at the clients. Okay, I've had a lot of help, but what I what I want to emphasize is you have to bring something to the table.
Mm.
Okay, no one's going to help you if you bring nothing to the table. Okay, I mean none of us, and some people are surprised by that. But I'm like, okay, let me ask you, how many friends do you have who are ugly on the outside, ugly on the inside, boring to be with, and just downers? How many friends do you have that are like that? Right?
Right.
And everyone's answer is no, is zero. Like I don't have any friends like that, right? But there are people like that out there. So my point is, none of us have friends like that because they bring nothing to the table.
Right.
Okay, so you have to bring something to the table. And yes, we need the help of uh, friends, colleagues, other stakeholders in industry, whatever. But we need to bring something to the table so that they will help us
Mm.
because they see that we help them, or we can help them, or we will help them, right? And whether that is insights, customer leads, oh, whatever, bring something to the table so that uh, others will be a lot more, or will absolutely help you.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think of so I'm in a BNI networking group, and the principle is giver's gain, right? So the more you give to
Yeah,
the other members in the group, everybody then feels almost a need or a responsibility to give back and reciprocate,
yeah.
what you give to others. So I like how, how you've explained that so that folks who are listening, understand that principle of, you get what you give, right?
Right, and from their perspective, it's not entirely altruistic, right? I mean, like I said, if it were entirely altruistic, we would all of us would have a couple of friends who are ugly on the inside, outside, and boring to be with, and not funny, or whatever, right? None of us have that, right? So it's not entirely altruistic because then these people uh, that you want help with and you need help with see, this guy or this gal brings something to the table and can and will help me,
Right.
so I'm going to help him or her,
Yeah.
right? And in fact, it's how human societies have worked for thousands of years, right? Where in societies where they did not have extensive ability to store foods, right?
Mm.
When they make a big kill, they share the food with everyone. It's not
Right.
because they're magnanimous and altruistic. It's because you can't eat an entire buffalo by yourself or with your family. So, like, look, I killed it. So here's some buffalo for everyone. But remember, I mean, they don't say it, but remember, I killed this buffalo and gave it to you. And
Yes.
maybe 2 weeks from now, when you kill a buffalo and I don't have one, you remember that because maybe 4 weeks from now, I will kill another one,
Yes.
right? So you have to bring something to the table.
Yeah. I love it. Jemmy, if I asked you, I'll put you on the spot here. If I asked you to pick three people in your business who, as part of your journey, who you're most grateful for them being there to help with your business growth, who are those three people and how they help you?
I think I don't want to mention any names because they're still in kind of the industry, but I've had probably two CEOs and one CFO who have helped me a lot, and I think you know I think it was the Sicilians have a saying: "Only a true friend will tell you when you have mud on your face." Right, and they helped me a lot in that they offered me advice that was often inconvenient. right?
Mhm.
And maybe uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
You need to do more of this, or your this behavior on your part will limit your growth, right? Which is what one of them said. And I think some of these uncomfortable, because I don't need anyone to, especially we've talked about this, right? I tend to be a very confident guy, right? I don't
Right.
need someone to tell me, oh, you did this great or you did that great,
Yeah.
because people like me tend to think I do everything great, right? Uh, Reality or not. So it, these gentlemen helped me, and they were very successful. And one of them I still deal with on a monthly basis. Um, they helped me by saying, okay, uh, these things you need to work on.
Mm.
Okay, and here's why. Right, and if you don't work on this, it's going to limit your growth,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And that I thought it was very valuable. I highly encourage, and I do encourage young people, especially, to find find a mentor. Okay, a mentor who will help guide them, not just technically. And some people think mentors are, this person is going to help me with this technical skill. Some of it is that, but I think more so how you grow as how you grow and mature as a human, right?
Hmm.
We have we have long lifespans, right? Our life expectancy right now is approaching around 80. So if you get to a workforce in the early 20s, if you work till you're 60, that's 40 years. So that's a lot of time to grow. And uh, you know, it, back to the Harbaugh saying, right? If you're better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today,
Yeah.
sky's the limit, right? But if you're flatlining, that's a long time to be flatlining.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of ways that so people can grow, right? It's easy to read a book or listen to an audible or watch a video or go to a conference. So I hear a lot of times, well, I don't have the time. Well, you really people you don't really not have the time, right? You can't afford not to keep growing and developing because you'll get left behind. So think
Yep.
about what can you easily implement into your weekly schedule that helps you to continue to become a better person tomorrow than you were today. I love that saying.
I think Warren Buffett gave this analogy. He asked a bunch of school kids, and I was watching a documentary on him. Asked a bunch of school kids. He said, "Look, if I told you you can only have one car in your life, okay, how well would you maintain that car and protect that car and improve that car?"
Right.
And the kids are like, "Yeah, that'd be, I if I could only have one car in my life, I do everything I can to maintain it, to make sure it lasts my entire lifetime." And then Buffett said, "Okay, well, you only have one you. You only have one of you, right? You only have one person, one body, one mind. And if you would do that for a car, why would you not do that for yourself,
Wow, yeah.
right?" And I think that's where companies like yours can probably help come in and action coach. But and it's a great point, right? You would do that if I you would do that for a car if I told you you could only have one car,
Right.
right? Why would you not do that for yourself, your body, your mind, your capabilities?
Yeah. I love that quote. Wow, that's so powerful. Jemmy, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you're going to face in reaching your goals, and who are the types of people that you're going to need to help you overcome those challenges?
So we live in an age when change is, and this sounds cliche, but it's not, where change is all around us.
Mm.
Okay. So if you think about it, if someone if someone fell asleep in 1850 and woke up in 1900, that person's skill set would still be relevant.
Mm.
Okay. Would still be very relevant. Whether they're a blacksmith or whatever, it'd still be a relevant skill set. And if you do a thought experiment for the year, let's say 100 AD and 150 AD, it would be even more so, right? I mean, like nothing changed in 50 years back
Right.
then. Now, if you think about it, we're in 2023. If someone went to sleep in 1973 and woke up in 2023, their skill set would be almost completely irrelevant.
Right.
Almost completely irrelevant. So my point is, not only is change all around us, but the pace of change, right? So from engineering terms, the second derivative, right? The pace of change is increasing. Change is getting faster. So one of my challenges is to keep up with that with a lot of
Mm,
my clients, right?
mm,
A lot of my clients, and so the pace of change is increasing. And how do I keep up with that and still stay on the foreground, right? And
right,
honestly, as people like me, get older and older, there's at least a perception that hey, this guy or this gal is they're not keeping in touch with what's new, what's the
right,
greatest, newest and greatest, right?
right.
So I have to combat that, and the way I combat that is to um, kind of what Warren Buffett was saying is to work on me, work on my brain, work on um, my knowledge of the trends, and then to synthesize that, right? So instead of being so be able to synthesize all of that and be on the front, the cutting edge, the front end of a lot of this change.
Hmm.
So I think that's and yes, working with other stakeholders in this industry, but working with some of my peers and others, and keeping on the foreground of this increasing rate of change.
Right. Yeah. So I can imagine, but I'd love you to talk about it a little bit. There must be things that you're able to access to help you with that learning. So what are some of your go-tos in terms of helping you keep up to that change?
You know, I go to a lot of industry conferences
Hmm.
of the various industries that I lead for my partner and me, and he leads some others.
Hmm.
I go to a lot of these industry conferences. I talk with a lot of the thought leaders in the industry, at the conferences,
Hmm.
sometimes on background, and I read a lot. I read, um, I read not only about the industries that I'm involved in, but of global trends, right?
Mm.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on with the newest technology? So, for example, I started playing with the Chat GBT, right? And just on the second day I started playing with it, I finally got in because they put me on a wait list and all that. But second day I started playing with it, I used it to summarize. I asked for an executive summary from one of my uh, direct reports, and he gave me a two-pager. I'm like, okay, no, look, for this type of topic, unless you're giving me an executive summary of the history of the universe, it's got to be shorter than 2 pages, right?
Yeah.
I need 3 or 4 bullet points. So what I did was I took that two-pager, put it in ChatGPT, and said, give me 4 bullet points, and it did it, and it was very good.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm not selling that, obviously, because I don't own ChatGPT, but just doing that and experimenting with it, and instead of pushing back and say, oh, ChatGPT will never replace humans. That's not the point, right? But are there practical applications of these new technologies out there
Mm,
right now
yeah.
that I can use to improve my business and my life?
Right.
Okay. It doesn't even mean this is going to be end result. I think there are going to be far bigger consequences and results. But are there, uh, is there a small bite of the apple that this thing can do in kind of my business
Right.
that I may be able to parlay into something else, maybe something that is monetizable,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's an example of kind of keeping in touch with the changing technology, right? I see a lot of people, frankly, I'll be honest, I hate to be ageist, but I see a lot of people my age like, oh, ChatGPT will never replace humans, but that's kind of the wrong measure, right?
Mm,
It's
right.
not will replace humans, but will replace some things that some people do right now, so that they can they can do the things that ChatGPT cannot do,
Right.
right? And how do we play around with that so that we can then think about? So then I played around with it. I'm like, hey, I wonder. I can think of a couple uses my clients can do with this in their business,
Yeah.
right? And even if that doesn't come to fruition, that's starting to connect some of the islands of knowledge I have about this industry or other industries uh, that may still be islands right now. But
Yeah.
I'm starting to connect, narrow land bridges.
Yeah. Well, I like your example back to what you said at the very beginning, that your mind's always thinking about how do I make it more efficient. So even just taking a report and being able to, you know, condense it down to a two
Yeah,
pager and then condense a two pager to bullet points. I mean, that saves a lot of somebody's time, right?
it saves a lot of time, and it's hard because I forgot who it was. I think it was Benjamin Franklin or George Washington or someone said, wrote a letter. It's like a 2 or 3 page letter. I said at the start, I said, "Sorry for this long letter. I didn't have enough time to write your short one." Okay,
Yeah.
because because it's harder to write. It's harder to convey the
Yeah.
same thoughts or 95% of the same thoughts in 3 bullet points than it is in 2 pages.
Right.
Anyone can do this 2 pager, right?
Yeah.
Anyone, right? 2 page, that's not a summary to me. Okay. Anyone can write this 2 pager, but can someone get 95% of the core of this 2 pager into 3 bullet points?
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. And, and because the decision makers are not going to read your 2 pager, they're
Right.
going to read your 3 bullet points. What should I do? Why?
Yeah.
What are the consequences if I don't do it? If I do it, done.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Last question here, Jemmie. Jim Rohn said that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So, as you think about that quote, what advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own or feel like they have to do it on their own and they can't ask for help?
Yeah, I would encourage them to. That's a great question. I would encourage them to network more, to go to some of these networking events,
Mm,
to search for, try to spend more time with people who are successful in the fields that they want to be successful in.
mm,
Okay. Uh, if you're in basketball or chess or whatever, you don't get better by playing those who are worse or far worse than you.
right.
Okay. And it's even questionable how much better you get by playing those who are at the same level, right? You get better faster if you play and associate and watch those who are better than you.
Mm,
Okay. You can see what are they doing that I'm not? What am I doing that they're not? And how do I get better? So I
right.
would encourage people to network more, to go to more of the events for the industries that they want to be successful in,
Mm,
uh, and to associate, to befriend, to offer value to those who are successful in the field that they want to be successful in,
mhm.
so that they can learn something, right, from these people who are more successful than them.
Yeah. Awesome. Jemmie, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Tim. It's great talking with you.
To everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to Self Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread the movement by liking our show and posting about it on your social media. And to join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.
Bye, everyone.